We are a divided country, we're told. People blame the media, others politicians. But to quote former President Obama, don't blame me. Instead, put it on identity politics.
When I hear people say they don't like identity politics, they don't like, I think it's important to remember that identity politics doesn't just apply when it's black people or gay people or women.
No.
You know, the folks who really originated identity politics were the folks who said, you know, three-fifths clause and all that stuff. That was identity politics. That's still out there.
He's dead right. The past was super racist. Just ask Democrats who went to war to defend slavery. But that was then. But now Obama seems to be arguing around a current problem. Kind of like when faced with Islamic terror, you say this.
Lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place. Remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ.
It's the same argument, but I don't blame Obama's whataboutism, except that it excuses the one flaw that, if fixed, could unify his party and this country. And that flaw is identity politics, which prefers disunity and differences over mutual understanding. Political power based on grievance requires an endless supply of oppressors. Without them, there's no power. No wonder young, healthy individuals with endless opportunities feel and seem hopeless. It's because the anger ruins them. Identity politics says you're never going to win until you're the oppressor. And that means embracing a vengeance-based dogma. And it says that others, no matter their age, are still guilty of a huge historical crime against blacks, women, gays, you name it. Ultimately, each group will turn on itself, since one person's oppressor is another's victim, and it removes forgiveness and commonality, replacing it with a grievance drip that leaves you unhireable and bitter. Until the Democrats discard this obstacle to unity, it's only going to get worse. Hell, it's not often that I give advice, earnest advice, to Democrats. What the hell am I thinking?
Yeah. Snap out of it.
I don't know what's going on. I got to go. One, I honestly believe, I know we talk about this all the time, but you have to believe that I believe this, that this is something that if the Democrats let go, could be a magnificent thing for both parties, because it'll make the Republicans better as well. If you have a really strong message, a unifying message from Democrats, then it makes the Republican, everybody becomes better, because it's about unification.
I'm all for unification. I think that it's important to emphasize the idea that we're all Americans and we have a common destiny. But I do think, contrary to what you said, that, you know, I mean, you left Donald Trump out of there, and I think he's a guy who has found it politically advantageous to divide us as Americans, and that identity politics, to my mind, especially identity politics of today, I think a lot of it begins with things like birther movement. This guy's the other. He's really not an American. Or those guys, I wish he'd fire those sons of bitches who are kneeling, the black football players. I could go on in that regard, but you know this story. But to my mind, what I'm seeing right now is the emphasis that Trump has placed on white identity politics, and it's emboldened people who I think in the past were biting their tongues about it. But I think this is part, Greg, of the shifting demographics of the country, especially among young people, more people of color, more immigrants coming into the country, and I think it challenges the idea of white majority and white control. But you know what? We need to get away from that, so that's where I agree with you, and focus on things that bring us together. But I don't think Trump is that guy.
Well, maybe he isn't, but identity politics, Dana, stresses the differences through this idea of intersectionality. There's no way anybody can come together if they're constantly competing on who's more aggrieved.
Well, and the thing is, even if as there are changing demographics in the country, it's even more important, I think, than to go back to and remind people and teach younger people about civics education and why the founders founded our country. It's based on an idea. So diversity is a strength, as is the Democrats' message, right? So, okay, well, maybe you can see how far you can get that way. But what would bring all of us together is a reminder that they focused America based on an ideal, that all men are created equal. But this is not about our heritage. It is not about a certain people. And that's why when Macron brought up nationalism at that speech in France, and everyone thought it was a slam against Trump, and maybe Macron meant it that way, it's just listening to a few people explain it better, is that nationalism in France, like that, yeah, absolutely, that was bad. Like, look what happened. Yeah, we get it. When you talk about nationalism in America, it's not based on an identity in terms of you as a people. It's based on that we all agree on this ideal that brought us together, and that's going to keep the country strong going forward. It's not just that diversity is a strength; it's that the founding fathers set us up for success, and we should take them up on it.
What do you think, Jesse?
Well, just on Juan's comment, you talk about Trump saying they were SOBs for kneeling. I didn't see that as racial. I saw that as about patriotism. And that was a moment where this whole country comes together during the national anthem. And Trump wanted everyone to be united at that moment. So I see it a little bit differently. You know, when Obama was talking about identity politics, he was brilliant at playing that game, and he was very effective at it, but it worked for him personally, but it didn't work for his party. His party got shredded for 8 years trying to do that. It takes a very gifted and special politician to pull that off the way he did. Now, in the Democratic primary, if it goes all identity politics, it's useful against Republicans, but against each other, I think they're going to cannibalize themselves. They're so diverse, and there's going to be so many candidates this year. You're going to have whites, blacks, Hispanics, men, women, cultural appropriators. You're going to have middle class, millionaires,
Native Americans,
billionaires in there. And I think some people are going to try to weaponize their identity and say you're a straight white male in the Democratic Party and you have other candidates that are kind of subtly taking digs at you. You're going to feel a little bit resentment there. And on the other hand, if you criticize a black or Hispanic or a female in the Democratic primary, and they're going to try to deflect, and maybe they'll play the gender card or they'll play the race card, and they won't argue their points on substance, and that's going to do them a disservice in the general. Now, I think what happened with Hillary, she didn't play the gender card when she was attacked by Trump on policy too much. She was pretty sharp on policy, and I have to give her some respect for that. Obama didn't always play the victim. You know, he was on the attack. He was pretty tough. I just think the culture and the country, they're going to see 40 Democrats playing the victim and whining.
Can I say
and they're not going to, they don't see winners there. I think they're going to see losers.
I just want to say one thing, but Hillary's slogan was not, obviously it wasn't make America great again. It's I'm with her.
Yeah,
I agree
that was
with
like
that.
the ultimate
and she has to play the gender card. I'm saying, you know, when Trump goes after her on immigration or Trump goes after her on health care, she didn't say, oh, you know, you're attacking me for my woman. She really came back hard on policy.
All right. Jesse brought up the possibility of 40 candidates. I'm going to throw to some sound on tape of Julian Castro on MSNBC discussing the immense number of candidates. Take it away, Chris.
What's it going to be like to have 40 people running for president?
Oh, I think we need it, actually, on this side. I think it's going to be good for the party. What happened in 2016, wherever you were, whichever camp you were in, there was a good amount of bitterness after that campaign. Yeah. I think it's going to be cathartic for the Democratic Party to go through this process where, as you say, a lot of talented people with great ideas are going to run. There are probably going to be a lot of debates this time.
Jedediah, do you agree that this could be cathartic?
Yeah, I like to see a lot of candidates on a stage, but I think it's going to be challenging for them because you're going to have people who completely disagree with each other running for the same position, because the Democratic Party is so split right now, and I'm curious to see how they're going to make arguments like they like to make, against the 1%, for example, when they have a lot of people in that lineup that could potentially be billionaires themselves. I mean, you're looking at Mark Cuban, you're looking at Mike Bloomberg. I mean, these are people that are going to be tough sells with the kind of messaging that they often do. I will say also, just on the identity politics, that I agree with you, Juan. I think both sides do it. And I think there's a profound lack of self-awareness on both sides when they do it. But I think they do it because it does work a lot. I really do. I think with young voters, I think that war on women talk, I think when they went after Mitt Romney on that binders full of women, I think that really took him out. And I do think a lot of people are receptive to it, because when you compartmentalize the country, that's a way that Democrats in particular, I think, made people feel like they were being heard. Like, okay, you're a woman. These are your issues particular to you. We're going to solve those issues for you. You know, Republicans are anti-contraception. They're, you know, they don't want to protect your right to choose. And it makes people feel for a moment that they're being heard and that that person is fighting for them. It really takes a second of sitting back and actually thinking about how divisive and how divide and conquer it is to be mad about it.
Okay, then that's true. If there was a party for short people, I would probably be like, I'm ready to listen.
You could be the leader.
I could be the leader.
We will follow.
Yes. You could be my VP. Wait, that's sexist. I would be the VP.
Hey,
I'm imagining you both standing on pedestals at the podium.
The short party, Juan.
I think we could get Dana high heels.
There you go.
I know, and the problem is I am wearing high heels.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Do you want to talk about the 40?
No, I just wanted to say, the 40 doesn't bother me. Yeah. I agree with Julian Castro when he said it could be cathartic. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. I don't think it's going to include Hillary Clinton, but let 1,000 flowers
Oh, you don't
bloom.
think so? That's
no, I
interesting.
don't. But I do think that the event last night where Obama made this statement was in Houston at the Baker Center at Rice University. Jim Baker, who, Secretary of State, Reagan, all that kind of stuff, he said what's the matter?
No, I just love that. Like, Baker, that guy.
Well, shouldn't I tell people? It's a long time ago, Dana. People should know. Okay, so Jim Baker says the responsible center in the country's politics is disappearing. Obama comes back and says the internet plays to division in the society, makes division sells. I can sell you division in an instant on the internet, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
I just had one other point on the 40. So the Democratic National Committee is going to have a pretty strict way of figuring out how to get out of this problem. So, like, if you're Tom Steyer and your main issue is impeaching Donald Trump, and that's what you want to run on, I guarantee you are not going to make it to the adult debate. You are not going to make it to Super Tuesday. They're going to figure out a way to weed those people out.
All right. Do you want to say anything, Jesse, before I tease?
No, I think we have to go sell some ads.
Okay.